applications, if it would. Sorry, upset your book. That's all right.
Okay, it's 4 minutes. So, if and we're ready. Good? Okay. With that, I'd like to open up the May already. Man, where'd this year go? The May meeting of the Laconia Zoning Board of Adjustments, and I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Obviously, before you see the 3 board members that are here, so that does constitute a quorum, okay? But in doing such as this, I want to let you know everything. For a vote to pass, it has to have a full 3 votes, okay? If it's a 2-1 vote, then it automatically would fail, okay? So I want to let y'all know when I get to that point, y'all can start to think about this now. And when I bring it up again in just a few moments, then I'm going to ask everybody if they wish to continue, okay? So it'll give you a chance to think about it. So I'm going to call this meeting to order like I did. Would you do the roll call, please?
Roland Mayhew,
Yeah.
Mike Foot,
Here.
and Steve Bogart.
Here. And everybody else is absent. Okay. Acceptance of the minutes. Everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
I did.
Any changes?
No changes.
Any corrections? Any additions?
No additions.
There being none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes pass. Next on, now here's the point where I'm gonna ask, all the applicants that are out there tonight, any of you wish to postpone to the next meeting? I'm gonna make the offer once we start, there's no going back. So here's your opportunity if you wish to wait for a larger board to hear your application. Let the record indicate none of the applicants wish to move their application to the next meeting, so therefore we will continue. Okay, the first one up will be extensions. We have extension 2017-0017, variance 55, Bay Street variance extension request. Would the applicant please come forward, introduce yourself for the record, and tell us how we might be of service.
Well, 55 Bay Street is a variance that the board granted on July 17, 2017. It was to allow the land to be used for indoor storage, self-service warehouse, vehicle storage long-term, watercraft storage long-term, and construction yard equipment storage. We're asking for an extension tonight. We got an extension of our planning board, and this board is aware of this project, having it was approved for a boat storage building. The reason that it hasn't exactly gone forward is that we've been doing some more due diligence, and the building has to be larger. And also, there was a property acquired across the street where we'd like to put in a bulkhead. So we had to change the configuration of the plan, but the use is still going to be the same. And since I sort of presented a schematic last time to the board, I've already provided this to the planning department so that you can understand where we're going to be going with this. But I know you're just concerned about the extension, but you guys have been interested, so I'm just going to show you.
Very good.
Thanks, Mike.
And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Yep, thank you.
In any event, obviously, we just acquired the duplex across the street on the water within the last 60 days. And And then I have, I don't know if the board remembers this, it was kind of a bad joke, but last time, when you made the motion to, I think I made the analogy that it's an ugly duckling, and I think the chairman said something about, well, see if you could make the ugly duckling bigger. And unfortunately, all I've really been doing is plucking the feathers on the duck. I've removed like 6 of the garage doors. I've taken all the siding off the building, taken all the tar paper off the building, and we're in the process of placing the building in a dumpster here pretty quick. So I'm getting it ready for that. So we got demolition permit, and it's active, and we've been demolishing the building. So in order to keep going with a site plan of that nature, I'm pretty excited about it because it's got 2 big doors, which means that we can retrieve boats from the Martell's ramp and the new bulkhead we're going to build. So people won't be standing around. In other words, we'll be able to put boats out twice as fast. We'll be able to put boats in twice as fast. So it's a pretty exciting situation. It's going to be a joint venture between the owner of Martell's and myself, and we're going to be able to use his ramp and use a regular forklift to just sort of fade the boats in, and then we'll have a negative lift forklift on the other side to put the boats into the river. So that's what's going on with that. That's why we need the extension, and we hope you approve it tonight. Any questions I can answer?
Any questions?
What is the piece that you acquired?
The yellow one that you can't see the river, Mike.
Oh, okay, then it's just,
Yeah, it's just here. This is the river, and that's the bulkhead. I'm not.
alright. So when you say bulkhead, you mean ramp or something to,
Well, it's either gonna be a well or a reinforced thing where the forklifts can go up to it and lower
Yeah.
the boat into the, I don't know what the state's gonna want. We also talked about putting big heavy pilings in the ground and then putting big heavy pilings in the river and sort of going out so we don't have to touch the
yeah.
riverbed. But the state doesn't like you going over the lake, so I don't think that's gonna work. I think it's gonna be more like a bulkhead or a well type of a thing.
Any other questions towards the extension?
That'll probably go to Concon too, Mike.
I believe it. Looks like it comes up with better access.
Given time, this little duckling's gonna be a swine.
It will be.
You know, everything takes time.
Does.
Okay, if there's no other questions at this moment, do I open this up to the public or don't have to? This is just, if there's no other questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove the extension.
Extend.
Extension is Richard.
I'd like a 2-year extension, so I don't have to come back again. One?
But you're only gonna get a 1 year.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, and then after that, it will turn into 6 months.
Okay.
Renewables.
All right, that's fine.
But I feel assured you're gonna probably get it done before then.
Okay, I
We
hope so.
cross our fingers.
Oh, yeah, I hope so, yeah.
I move we approve the extension as requested.
Okay,
I'll second that.
based on the facts that it meets all the criteria, it was already, the application came in prior to it being, expired.
Yep.
Is the correct word I was searching from, so it meets all the criteria. The changes that were being made will be going to the planning board for their approval on it, so it should not have any adverse effect as far as continuing.
The survey was done today, so we're getting closer on that.
So with that, is that what we're saying, Mike?
It is.
Okay, so that's all part of the motion, and we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Any discussion of the motion?
And that's for a one-year extension, correct?
That's for 1 year, like I said earlier, for a 1 year extension. With, after that, it'll be 6 months follow-ups, I do believe. Okay? All those in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
You have a good night also. Okay, check that off. Check that, check. Check extensions. Okay, the next, we move into our public hearings. It appears that application who is gonna reappear tonight, 219-0010, Simpson Avenue variance request has been withdrawn. So that's all gone, okay? Okay. Done. So next is, public hearings on the new side. And the first one's coming up is gonna be 219-0013, variance 42 Gale Ave. It's a variance request. Applicant requests a variance from Article 6, Section 235-35B to construct an 8x12 addition to the dining room. New addition would encroach approximately 2 feet into the side setback. Would the applicant please come forward, introduce yourself for the record, and tell us how we might be of service.
Good evening. My name's Greg Thompson, homeowner there at 42 Gale.
Good evening and welcome tonight.
Thank you. Turns out our house is built within the 10-foot variance already, and we would just like to continue along the sidewall with a small extension. And in doing that, we're still encroaching on the 10-foot variance, 10-foot setback.
So do you know how far you're already encroached and then,
That side of the house looks like 2 feet. Looks like it was designed with an 8-foot setback, to tell you the truth.
so it's 2 feet into the setback?
Yes, it is.
And then so you want to have 2 more so
No.
there'll be a,
I just continued down that wall.
oh, okay.
I
That would be
The-
where this little bump out is and then just continue straight down, right?
Yes, I believe so.
If I'm looking at this map here, lot 13,
Yes,
there's a bump out on the, if I'm looking straight down, on the left side.
Be on the right side.
right side.
Well, we're doing the right side.
I think if you go on the next page, Steve, I think you're better off.
Ah,
Ah, there we go.
okay. And you're only coming down 5 feet? An extra 5 feet is all you're doing, the extension for?
8 feet.
8 feet?
It's 8 by 12,
Okay.
roughly. Guess that copy didn't come off good.
Oh. Okay. Any questions of the applicant?
So this bump out here on the right, this is just bringing it in line with the
Existing wall.
existing wall already.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
pretty graphic picture here that shows it. The
Yeah.
tape measure is my best guess as to where the 10-foot setback is. And that's 2 feet into the existing house.
you'll come down with the roof, or is it gonna be flat? You're gonna,
Yeah, it'd be sloped.
it'll be slow?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Too much snow up there.
right. Any other questions at the moment?
Nope.
There being none, you may have a seat for a second. I'd like to open it up to the public and ask anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this application, please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I'll bring it back to the board. Yes,
Just want to bring your attention to the fact that we did receive a letter in support from the neighbor at 50 Gale Avenue.
okay, good, good. Any other questions?
The only question I have is, I was over there Sunday, and there were several cars in front of the house, and it really is a tight lot. Have we heard anything from any of the butters?
Yeah, from 50,
Just number 50 is in support.
Number 15?
and no one in disagreement because any other questions? Any closing comments, sir?
No.
Okay, let the record indicate there was no closing comments. Therefore, I'm gonna close it to the public, bring it to the board for discussion. It doesn't look like it's too much out of the way. It's gonna be in line with the building. It's 8 feet from the street and from the neighbors. It's not gonna be any impact whatsoever, no more than what the building is already, I don't think. What do you think, Roland?
Now this, the
It's on
red
the
line,
right side.
the red line signifies the setbacks, right?
Right.
And is it this side or this side?
It's the
It's
right
on the right side that has the shading on it. So you're gonna be you're gonna be 2 feet into it, really.
That
Shading is-
little mark there,
The shading is a difference,
that's the
This
8
is-
feet he wants to add for his kitchen,
yeah.
living room.
And that's shown on here,
Yep, that's that black line,
yeah,
that's gonna go.
okay.
I'm seeing as reasonable, certainly within
It doesn't seem to me.
what's in the neighborhood.
It's not
I don't think it's gonna affect
obtrusive
the neighborhood
enough.
that much with that.
I think if it was the beginning of something, then that might be a little different, but
I don't see it impacting anything.
give it a little bit more, then it's like you said, it's a condensed lot. It's already in a non-conformity situation.
It's not gonna make much of a difference.
It's not gonna change the function of the lot and or
No.
the ability of the neighbors to, doesn't look like it's gonna intrude in any of their privacy or whatever, so.
I think it's consistent with the neighborhood, I think.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a motion. Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Okay. The variance is not contrary to the public interest, as it will not impose any difference as far as the property is concerned or provide any adverse effect to the neighbors, as that section of the building already intrudes 2 feet into the side setback. The spirit of the ordinance is observed for the fact that it's not intruding any further. The length of the building is gonna be added 8 feet, but the difference in allowing them having a little more living space within their house would improve the quality of their life within the house itself. The value of the surrounding properties are not diminished. I do not believe they would be diminished, as that it's not gonna have an adverse effect to any of the properties adjacent to it. And in fact, with the increase in its square footage, it'll probably help maintain, if not improve slightly, the house values. The ordinance, the literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. I believe it would constitute unnecessary hardship due to the fact that the lots are small at 65 feet of road frontage. What is the standard for the road frontage there?
25.
25?
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
the setback,
setback.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about,
80.
okay,
Oh, frontage, sorry, 80, yes.
80. So it's already, the road frontage has to be 80 and it's only 65, so it's already in a situation where nothing can be done to change. And by adding this 8 foot in length to the property would not have any adverse effect. So, there's a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second discussion. You look like you wanted to say something, so that's why I was looking. Okay, if there's no discussion, all those in favor?
Right.
Okay, enjoy.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is gonna be application 2019-0016, variance 155 Baldwin Street. Excuse me. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article 6, Section 235-34, minimum lot frontage to allow for a boundary line adjustment. Lot frontage would be reduced by 7 feet from 66 feet to 59 feet. Would the applicant please come forward, introduce yourself for the record? And
Hi, my name's Michelle LeBlanc, and I'm acting on behalf of Patricia Baldick.
I know I had more to that than this.
It's,
Just a
Patricia
second.
155.
You know what threw me off about your home? Is, it looks like it should be on Dollar Street. And I
My-
drove by it twice before I saw the eagle and said.
Right, right. Pat is kind of like on that little jog.
Yeah,
I'm in the house on Dolph Street, directly next to her.
And your name was once more?
Michelle LeBlanc. I'm at 45 Dolph Street.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
We have been using the property in question. If you look at the picture, did everybody get that?
this one here.
This one?
Yes. If you look at that picture in the yellow block here, lot 94, you'll see that's my house, and Pat's house is next door in the orange. The boundary line goes right up the middle of my son's car. And so we're just looking to, we've been parking there for 11 years with Pat and Bob's permission, and we're just looking to make it official now, because we'd kind of like to be able to pave that so that Andy's not parked in the mud. So we're asking for 7 feet of frontage and just a straight line back to the property pin.
Would the setback on that lot 93 still, the side setback still be set?
Yes.
Yes.
Still 10 feet.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just so the board's clear, as you look at the map, the Lot 93 are the actual applicants, because they're the lot that's being affected by the boundary line adjustment.
Right.
And they need to have 80 feet of frontage. They don't have 80 feet of frontage, and we're taking away 7 feet from it, so they're becoming more non-conforming. But I don't see this as being an issue. And then, of course, the other lot is also non-conforming, but they're becoming less non-conforming, so no issues for the LeBlancs. And as the applicant said, they're just trying to formalize an arrangement that's been occurring for a number of years already.
Are the Baldocs here tonight?
They are not. Mr. Baldock actually passed away a few weeks ago, and Pat can no longer live by herself, so she is with her daughter in Massachusetts.
We have a letter from them authorizing.
I have a letter here if you'd like to see it, giving me
And they're
permission
in
to act on
agreement
her
with
behalf.
it, Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just wondering how it's gonna affect, they'll probably be selling that property.
They're considering that they have a lot of renovations that need to be done first.
How is this boundary line settlement going to affect the sale of their property?
It shouldn't, in my opinion, because it's only 7 feet and it's just for a parking spot. Their parking is on the other side of the house. So it doesn't affect their parking area at all.
But it does reduce the frontage.
It does.
It's funny because they're not parking on their property either.
Right. Keep moving it down the line.
Actually, the red car that you see on the boundary line on the other side of their house is actually from Lot 92.
Now, they look like they got enough room they can park on their property. But,
They supposedly had their property surveyed and that was part of their property.
Where the car is, it was part of the other people, 92's property?
Where the red car is that goes through the middle of the boundary line on that side, they said they had that surveyed and that's still on their property. All they had paved was a little tiny spot for one car.
So did the Baldocs lose anything on that survey?
They said no. But I have to have the property surveyed. If I get approval here, I have to have the whole property surveyed to have new pins set.
Which whole property, Baldocs or yours?
The Baldic's and mine, is from what I understand.
so, if we find that the survey's less than 59 feet across the front, would that change things to the city?
I don't believe so. I think the major points of this application are that the Bolduc property has non-conforming frontage now, will have non-conforming frontage after this. They will still have the minimum 10 feet side setback, so there won't be any issues from that standpoint. And it's formalizing the arrangement that the two neighbors have had for a number of years anyway.
It's a nice deep lot.
Yeah, lot size-wise, they're both conforming and will continue to be.
Okay. Any other questions at the moment?
Now, we have a letter from the Baldocs saying that they're not opposed to this.
And they're in support, yep, yep.
Okay. With that, I'd like to open it up, you may have a seat for a second. I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. We'll bring it back to the board for any further questions.
Seems reasonable to me if it's supported by the Baldicks and they've submitted the proper documentation for
Okay?
representation here.
No questions?
I don't.
Any questions?
No.
To the applicant?
No questions?
Okay. Any closing comments, ma'am?
My son would appreciate a paved parking spot.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion.
I don't see a red flag here. Once again, if it's not bringing the Baldicks property out of conformance anymore, or reasonably less, it's not impacting any side setbacks or anything like that. Seems reasonable.
Okay.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept application 201900016 at 155 Baldwin Street. This is a variance looking to move the boundary line and, add 7 feet to, lot number 94 on Baldwin and, taking it from lot number 93. This is not contrary to the public interest. In spirit of the ordinance would provide off-street parking, also settle what seems to be a timely point to, adjust. This is, something that's been carried on for some years, and it's just solidifying it. And, it seems reasonable. The hardship being is that they want to adjust it.
We have a motion, we got a second?
Second?
Discussion. Got a question for you, Dean. The current property line, does that, I can't tell from this, but on lot 94, are those outbuildings there close to the lot line? Are they currently in the setback, you think?
They are probably in the setback, but they have probably been there for
And
some
then-
time, and so they're probably grandfathered.
Oh, that's not the question, not the direction I was leaning,
Okay.
but thank you. By adding this property to it, it would reduce that side setback, or increase it, is what I'm looking, right?
Minimally, but yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So basically, Mike, you're saying that the variance is not contrary to the public interest, as both parties has agreed to the lot line change that is already currently being used, and that spirit of the ordinance is being observed because the ordinance was set that both properties has a issue with the road frontage of being 66 feet when the code is 80 feet, and one will have an increase, which would be less non-conforming, and the other one's going to be a little more non-conforming. So the ordinance there is making its adjustments. Substantial justice is being done because that both properties will be beneficial to both parties, as both parties has agreed to this in itself, and it's not being forced upon them. The hardship of the property is that both of them in itself is sitting at 66 feet with road frontage, and that the one's going to have a slight increase, so it'd be less non-conforming, and the other one's going to just be slightly more non-conforming, but in the overall, it won't have any adverse effect to it.
Succinctly
about what
put.
you said.
Succinctly put, and I concur.
Okay. So can we have a re-second to those adjustments to the
Second.
motion? Okay. Can we make those adjustments there? All right, with that in place, all those in favor? Okay. You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out to you that you skipped over an application.
Did I?
Yep.
Yeah, I was stumbling on it.
1022 Union, you could do.
Oh, Gale Avenue?
Union?
Oh,
No, 1022 Union.
We skipped Union Avenue. Gotta come back.
Number 8.
But to be,
82.
okay. I did the Gale, did that, sorry. I apologize. Was slightness on my side? Well, let's do them now. Okay. Checked off the wrong one. Okay, the next one on the agenda is 219-0014, 1022 Union Ave, variance request. Applicant is requesting variance from Article 6, Section 235-35B to relocate a deck. Deck would encroach approximately 12 feet into the rear setback. Would the applicant please come forward and introduce yourself for the record? And once again, I apologize. I didn't mean to.
Good evening, my name is Greg Maswick. I own the Meineke up on 1022 Union Ave.
Good evening.
How are you guys? And so I'm going to assume you all have the photos and the lot thing, but what we'd like to do is put a deck on kind of just sitting on top of the parking lot area, the paved area there. It's not used for parking. We purchased the business just under 2 years ago. We've been trying to make some improvements to the look and the convenience of the property. So a deck would be a nice place for our customers to kind of sit and look out over the lake while we repair their cars.
And that would be built on top of the asphalt that's
Yep.
there now?
Yep.
You're gonna move the deck that's already there?
Yeah, we're gonna put it back to the, put it back onto that spot there.
Why?
Because you guys said we had to do that.
I was down there Sunday, the deck looks like
It's beautiful, but it's so the railroad owns a stretch up to the water, right? And so where we are now, we're just nudging up against there, so we need to come back a bit, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the posts are on ours, but it kind of cantilevers and hangs over there, so. We tried to contact the state about maybe buying that piece of where the railroad is, but it sounds like 15 years from now and 8,000 letters later, we might have a shot at it.
maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. Any issues?
Well, as you know, the deck exists now and is encroaching not only into the setback, but somewhat into the adjacent property. And so by moving it back, There will be no issues. So, in this zone, the standard rear setback would be 20 feet. As you can see on the colorized map that you have, the present building is only 13 feet from the property line. And then we have the added provision within our zoning ordinance that next to a railroad right-of-way, you only need 10 feet of setback. Now, technically, this land behind them is owned by the New Hampshire Railroad. As you all know, there is no railroad anymore through there, but they still own that strip of land, and so their request is really going to be, they'll be closer to the railroad property than normally allowed, but not anything that's going to affect,
Because what do they get? They get 25 feet anyway, right?
yeah.
So there's 25 feet and then whatever he has, so you're somewhere around 30 feet from the track.
Right.
As it is. It's not gonna cause any, cause it's on the asphalt itself, there's not gonna increase
Right.
any drainage issues or anything like
Right.
that. And, the only other question is, it doesn't appear that it'll have an adverse effect from taking up any parking spaces.
No, it's in an area of the parking lot with that's
That's
not
not
used for
used.
current parking.
Right. So,
Have the railroad people asked you to move?
No.
No, we did.
Yeah.
Busy boy.
It's gonna be the same size deck,
Yeah, 12 by 13.
12 by 13, that's what
they're
fits
just
in
gonna
that.
pick it up and slide it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Roller deck.
Unless you guys have changed your mind and you think it's okay to leave it where it is, then we can do that too. We wouldn't be averse to that.
Oh, it's New Hampshire, we like it the hard way.
Okay. Any other questions at the moment? With that being said, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I bring it back to the board for any further questions. Any closing? Yes.
I do have one other comment. If the board is inclined to approve this variance, we would like a condition attached to it.
Okay.
In the process of when they built originally the deck in its location, there were some trees that were cut down, and we'd like to have some replanting of some trees on that slope,
Okay.
just to replace those.
Y'all will give them the direction of the number or whatever?
Yep.
Type.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
No other questions? Closing comment? Any last words? No?
Where trees were cut down, the builder probably did that when we were around, but yeah, we're happy to do that, just let us know.
Okay. So, with that, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion.
Recognizing that they were requested to bring this into, greater conformity, they're willing to do it, I don't see a problem here.
All right. So, shall we go for a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve, 2019014, for 1022 Union Ave. This motion is to, move an existing deck into another spot, but it would still extend approximately 12 feet into the setback. Being as we requested this, I would feel that this isn't, or the city requested this, I feel it not be contrary to the public interest. Spirit of the interest would be observed because they're, doing what was requested of them. Substantial justice is done, once again, this is taking something and making it less unconforming and working towards what was requested from them. Do not feel that it would diminish the value of the surrounding properties. And, the hardship is it's in a spot that would be, is less suitable than what they're proposing. And it's reasonable and it, seems like they should be able to utilize that otherwise unparkable spot.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
second, discussion. There being none, all those in favor? Okay. Oh,
Oh,
I
for
want
the
to back,
condition.
the conditions gotta be added in.
Yep.
So, all
Condition.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. He'll tell you the trees,
Okay.
okay?
White pine, white pine, white pine.
All right. Next is application 2019-0017, variance on 97 Sheridan Street. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article 6, Section 235-35A to remove and replace old front portion of existing house. New larger addition would encroach approximately 9 feet into front setback. Applicant, please come forward at this time, introduce yourself for the record, and tell us how we might help.
I'm David Prescott. I am the owner of 97 Sheridan Street.
David Blood. I'm on the deed.
As well.
I own the property beside him at 109.
Okay?
So we bought the land back in 2008, and the house was built 1850, and we tore down the backside back then.
I bought the property and tore down the old house that Evelyn Cormier owned that was in shambles. At that time, the city wouldn't let us tear down the whole thing, so we had to leave some existing. So I put the addition on that you can see in the back, and we left the front. Then my daughter unfortunately married him, and they wanted to buy the property. So we sold it to them. The front house is in desperate need of replacing. The supports underneath are gone. The structure is antiquated. It needs a severe update for safety issues and to bring it up to, probably more up to code and much more aesthetic for the neighborhood. And there are several houses down in that neighborhood that have been redone and,
It's starting to look really nice.
yeah. These guys have worked hard on what they've got and they would like to improve it for their family and the neighbors.
Thank you.
Now, you want to tear down that whole front all the way out? Now, the house goes almost to the sidewalk now, and you want to go another 9 feet?
No,
You'll be out in the road, won't you?
no, they want to go a couple feet beyond that foyer. Wanna
John,
take
where the
where
house is now?
Where the existing house is,
Yeah,
including the foyer, they're looking at going about 2 feet beyond the foyer.
Take a look at. So this one right here, this is existing,
yeah.
and this is our foyer. We're coming basically to here, right?
Right?
Maybe
clo-
2
yeah.
feet in
Maybe
front of
2
that
feet in
foyer.
front of the foyer.
Is this the sidewalk or the road?
This is the road. This is the main road, and that line right there is actually the center of the road. We're 27 feet from the center of the road, we would be.
What's going to happen to the sidewalk?
Sidewalk's
Sidewalk's
gonna be
still there. Yep.
Nothing's gonna affect that.
Yeah.
We're not getting anywhere near the sidewalk in reality.
We'll still be,
It's just moving
we're actually 8 feet from the
the front
sidewalk.
of this picture, that building, it's gonna move out towards the street.
You're gonna come right where yeah, that sticks out from this. They're looking at coming out just 2 feet more from there is all they're looking at.
You see that, Roland?
This whole front is coming
See
out.
this part here?
Yeah.
It's coming down.
If you look at this,
Oh, it's just this part is coming out?
this is a foyer. They
Oh.
want to go basically 2 feet beyond that foyer is what they're requesting, which is 22
You're not
feet.
tearing this part down?
Yes, that's coming off.
That's all going?
This is all going. This is all new.
Okay.
And they want to basically go 22 feet from where this wall starts out, which is pretty much 2 feet
Now,
roughly
how
from the
far is
front of
it
that
from
foyer.
here to the road?
27 feet.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's the middle of the road,
Yeah, just-
the side of the road.
Did you get a measurement from the side of the road?
From the side of the road or
No.
from the side of the
How-
sidewalk?
How
Edge of
close
the road.
will the new addition be to the side of the road?
To the side of the road, it was 15 feet.
Where does the setback
I-
legally have to be, from the center of the road or
I
from the edge of the
was
road?
under,
Front property line.
I was under the
Front side down?
assumption it was the side of the
They take
road
it
the
off the-
setback was. So I originally was taking it off that as well. So I was looking at that.
That line.
And then I
Okay,
realized
so
that
what
it
is the
wasn't,
setback
but
for the
it's,
road frontage?
instead of going up,
25?
instead of knocking the front down and going up to restrict people's views, we're trying to go out to be more conformative to, like, everybody in the neighborhood, buildings across the street, so that they're not, they can still see over.
I'm just wondering if
They're
you're,
up, they're
yeah.
up.
you know, if they're that close to the road, like, it looks like about 7 feet to the road, to the side of the road.
Yeah, it'll be 8
When those
feet. I
snowplows
measured
go
it
down in the
today,
wintertime,
so-
they're gonna go through your house almost.
Well, they pretty much tear my fence down, so.
Yeah,
Now, he's,
the fence is right on the road.
he's
15.
got to be within the setback from that sidewalk. I mean, he's gonna be a good 12 feet
Yeah.
from that sidewalk. But you gotta give me a reference point of where you want that from.
And this is one of the main
I guess that's where I'm a little off.
reasons why, like this is the basement wall, so the support all
Yeah.
around, this is it, all around the wall. So it's basically that we're trying to improve that, we're upgrading it, we're, obviously, I have 2 young kids, and, thank you, trying to make sure that it's safer and it lasts a long time, even for them, for when they get older, so that they can have it. That's currently where our kitchen and living room is. And we're hoping to turn it into a kitchen, living room, adding a spare room on the side with a bathroom to help, obviously,
Improve
the
the value
cost.
of the house.
The value of the house, which would improve the value of the neighborhood too.
All right, so I'll ask the question, how far, I'll expound on Roland's, how far from the edge of the road are we talking here?
From the
On
edge
the
of the,
property line?
from the edge of the road or from the edge of the property line, I guess? From
am
the
I
side,
looking at
side of,
here?
sidewalk.
You'll be 6 or 7 feet from the front property line at the end result.
And usually the front setback there is,
15,
15.
But that's nowhere near 15.
and yeah, they don't have 15 now.
We're gonna say
Right.
existing, we
because their
don't have
porch is
50.
already, the little
Correct.
alcove is
Yeah,
already
the front,
pushed out.
the front wall of the main part is probably in the setback as well.
Gonna say, I've lived there 30 years, and that house has been like that then.
Now, was this a double lot? You get 120 feet of frontage on that?
Correct. It does slope down. Once you get to halfway through the front of that house, it starts sloping downhill. It's on the side,
It runs, yeah.
It's a pretty steep slope. So it's either this or block people's views
And this-
hopefully
and-
go up.
In this, you're upgrading the front of the house, the rest of the house has already been,
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
10 years ago.
The back of the house is gonna stay, and it's
Yes.
just-
Correct. That's not gonna just be added onto. Basically, the front half is gonna come off, and the front wall will be opened up to the newer addition is all it is.
So whether it was 20 feet to the exact front of the current house, or 22, it's still non-conforming, it's non-conforming, we're just gonna be a little more or less non-conforming.
Right.
Right.
But currently, we're not in a non-conforming state due to the age of the house.
Right.
The hardship being the age of the house.
It was built
Yeah.
prior to life itself.
1850.
It was built before there were any standards, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
What's the distance from the center of the road to the side of the road?
It's not that wide of a pavement. It's
On a standard street,
14.
only like 13 feet?
Say 14.
standard would be a 24-foot wide pavement, so 12 from center, but I don't think
Yeah.
they're probably a 10 or 11-foot lane there, so it's probably a 20 to 22-foot pavement right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pavement is probably close to, I believe if I remember right, that Sheridan is only a 40-foot right away. It's not the standard 50.
Yeah, with all the renovations going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
they're not unique from a standpoint of being close,
You know,
close to the property line. A lot of the buildings along there are non-conforming as well.
Yeah, a lot of them are right close to, if you go up through there and really look,
Yep.
they're all within the same guideline.
Any other questions at the moment? Okay, you can stand or whatnot.
I don't think
Want to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record.
Can I do that, even though I'm,
Should she go to speak again? Or for her?
Please, you're an abutter.
yes. I originally bought it, like I said, the house needs updating tremendously. My grandkids are in there, my daughter, my son-in-law. They have worked hard. There's 2 other properties in that neighborhood that are down, coming up the hill that are non-conforming, and those 2 individuals, I don't know if they're gonna resell or what, but they put tremendous amounts of money in that neighborhood. And it's looking very good, except for one huge eyesore that needs to go away. But these guys have worked hard. They've done their due diligence. It's not gonna affect anybody in that neighborhood. All the neighbors are for it. I don't know if you've heard from any of them, but they have talked to me, I've talked to them. This needs to be done if you can see it clear to do it.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak for or against this application? Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one else from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I bring it back to the board for any further questions.
No.
Any closing comments?
No, I mean, he touched on it too. My 2 kids, like I want them to be able to live in this house for a long time too. Obviously that front part has to change. You see from some of the pictures. So we're hoping to be able to get that upgrade and be able to do that. So,
Okay.
thank you.
With that, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion. Well, in looking at it, I had considered saying what's the difference between 22 and 20, and it's just 2 feet, and it's already in the front setback, so it's not gonna really impact anything. And with the fact that they're sitting there with the closeness to the road, I've seen, I don't think that's gonna be any further issue with that. They have enough room on the property itself. For the wintertime to deal with the snow and stuff, so even if it does fall in the front yard, they have the ability, if they so choose, to move it. Okay, so the snow itself would not be an issue as blocking up the sidewalks and stuff like that, because I'm sure they're gonna wanna keep it clean, cause that little beast is gonna go humming through there and keep it clean for them, so.
Does a good job.
So it's gonna be advantageous for them to keep the snow at least out of their way, so they can have functionality of the front. It's with a 30-foot side setback on one side and a 40-foot side setback on the other. Doesn't appear that it's gonna infringe or impose any difficulties on the neighbors themselves. As you mentioned, it was almost like a double lot. So what do you think?
I think it sounds reasonable. Certainly it's not on a more high-traffic road, but Sheridan still does get its traffic in and out. I think it sounds reasonable that it should be granted, and certainly with the age of the houses in there, if it didn't burn down in the 1800s, it probably wanted to.
It'll give it ability to upgrade all the electrical and stuff and bring it up to current standards and stuff. And so that would help actually in that house, having, for the most part, they'll have to bring that up to pretty much electrical standards of today's code. Dean?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what do you think, Roland?
I think if they don't do something, the house is gonna cave in itself. That foundation is not very steady, not very strong. Something's gonna have to be done. I guess now's the time to do it.
Okay. So, with that, like to entertain a motion? You wanna give her a whirl?
Yep, I ain't scared. See where I'm at right here. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept this, variance for 97 Sheridan Street, Laconia. This is looking to expand their house, and it will impact the front setback. This is an older house. The back part of it's already been redone, and so upgrading the front of it will allow them to bring the building into the 21st century. It doesn't affect on side setbacks at all. It seems to be a fairly good sized lot. And it would be, once again, it would increase the value of the house to desirable aesthetic. Substantial justice is done because it has a rock foundation, and this it'll be upgraded and modernized, and you would imagine make it healthier to live. It will not diminish the values of the surrounding property. This will be a upgrade that goes along with what's been being done in the neighborhood. Hardship is that this stuff was built back before we had the zoning, so this is what we have the ZBA for, so we can look at this. And
Basically, in the hardship, you're saying that it was already built in the front setback because it predated all the zoning codes
correct.
and stuff like that, and so the rebuilding of that unit would not have any substantially more, what's the word I'm looking for is,
More impact.
yeah, that'll work. That what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Uniquely, precisely. And, so we believe that the proposed use is a reasonable one for the aforementioned, upgrading your living condition. And, have I forgotten anything? I think I mentioned it.
Good. We got a motion?
Second?
Got a second. Discussion? As we move into the discussion, Dean, does the city need anything in particulars for this property?
No.
Okay. There being no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes, enjoy.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Enjoy your new home.
That variance, if they don't get this done this year, how long's the variance good for, or is there a time frame on it?
2 years.
Two.
2 years.
2 years from this
From,
date?
yep.
Okay, and we'll get it done before then, guaranteed. Thank
Very
you,
good.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
one.
Have a
You as
good
well,
evening.
thank you.
Okay. So, that concludes all our current business. Do we have any other business?
We do. Share one each there. Just wanted to give you a
Oh, hey.
quick update on the zoning changes that are being proposed in response to the master plan adoption. We have discussed this previously, but I wanted to just give you an update of where we are. So the planning board has held public hearings and has approved the measure that I'm presenting to you tonight, and have forwarded it to the city council. Basically, we're creating a new urban commercial district, which will replace all of the various districts that are currently in the downtown area, and also encompass the commercial zones that already exist all along Court Street and all along Union Avenue through Lakeport and up to what used to be McIntyre Circle or the Guilford Line, however you want to look at it. There are a very few, but there are a few residential zones that are adjacent to all these things, that it just doesn't make sense to leave them little islands of residential areas where they're adjacent to commercial and industrial type uses already. So, the section there that I highlighted for you there is the actual language for the urban commercial district. And then the map unfortunately got cut off a little bit at both ends, but basically goes from the Belmont line at Court Street all the way up Court, encompassing all of the traditional downtown area that has been part of the different downtown districts, and then all the way up Union Avenue, which is currently zoned commercial already anyway. So that's what's going on with the urban commercial zone. It replaces, it takes away the professional district, it takes away the business central district, it takes away the business central industrial district, and it takes away the downtown river district. All of those districts, and plus parts of the commercial zone, are pulled into this one zone. So everybody will have the same rules and regulations, everybody will be on the same playing field, and everybody will be treated equally. The example I'm using is the florist shop on Union Avenue will be treated the same as the florist shop at Veteran Square, or vice versa, however you want to look at it, so that everybody's on an equal footing.
So, like, sign,
They'll all have the same sign. We're going to have a little asterisk on the signs for the immediate downtown area of the two Beacon Streets and Main Street between the Court Union intersection and Church Street intersection. So what is the traditional downtown area will have a little bit different sign restriction, but the rest of it, everybody will be under the same sign regulations, same setbacks, same uses, same everything.
Will those be, changeable signs? Those will be active, motion, full, sound, light?
Uh,
color?
They could be electronic signs with the restrictions that we have on electronic signs that they can't change. I think it's every 3 minutes. They have to stay the same for at least 3 minutes. But again, in the immediate downtown area, we will not allow electronic signs.
They'd be the traditional ones,
Yep.
as they. Now, boarding houses and stuff like that. how-
All of the same uses that are available in this district would also be in that district, and
Planning board will now have jurisdiction over appointing boarding houses and
I have
non-boarding
to
houses?
look at my use, but, I believe it would be still, I don't have the list in front of me, but I believe it would be permitted, yes. It'd either be permitted or be a special exception, and I'm not sure which, so, but
But they would be the ones saying yes or no, or would it still, would that come to us?
I'm not 100% sure, Steve. I'm not sure which side we fell on. There would still be a review by a board, but I can't remember if it's going to be a conditional use permit or a special exception. I'm not sure. So any other questions on the urban commercial zone? And then if you go one more page beyond the map, just a follow-up for you on the short-term lodging issue. City Council has asked us to look at coming up with a proposal for the short-term lodging issue. So what this does is creates a specific definition for short-term lodging. So then they would no longer be considered a rooming or a boarding house. There still would be such thing as a rooming and boarding house for, we've had recently a couple of requests for those. The two on Union Avenue, that one was denied and one was approved. Those would still be rooming and boarding houses. They would not be covered by the short-term lodging. This is more of the Airbnb type true
A
activity.
residential house.
What would be a normal residential house to be used for some periods of time.
So Airbnb is going to be handled administratively by the planning department now.
It would be done by an administrative approval with an appeal going to the zoning board. If someone disagrees on a granting of the approval, or if there's some type of an action or issue afterwards. This will be going, I just wanted to let you know that this has been going on. It's a rather lengthy thing, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing here, but I wanted you to be aware of what's being proposed. This is gonna be going back to the subcommittee of the City Council Ordinances Committee within a few weeks, and then they will be referring it to the planning board because it's a zoning amendment, so they will goes through the planning board and then back to the city council for final approval. But, so there could still be some changes here, but I think we're like at the 95% point of where we're gonna be, I believe. And we're encompassing several objectives here that the city council wanted us to achieve, and that is to allow short-term rentals in all of the residential zones, but to have some type of control and to do some minimal inspections. So all of that is outlined in here. The issues that we have been having, primarily noise, parking and trash, will be addressed in the ordinance, and there are remedies for people who have issues. So if they engage in short-term rentals, they need to get the approval, and then if there are issues, then there is going to be a formal complaint process that they will go through.
So you're looking at this being in all residential areas, or is?
That is the proposal as it stands right now. Yep, yep. I mean, it is currently allowed in the commercial resort and the shorefront resort, those two zones with an administrative approval. So we're extending it to all residential zones. We don't know currently how many we actually have in the city. We know of the ones that have been complained about and have come before this board. Most of them, most of the ones that we are really aware about have applied to this board. So, but when you go on to Airbnb and VRBO and those kinds of websites, there are potentially a couple of hundred different locations in the city that people are doing this, whether they're doing it 1 or 2 times a year or whether they're doing it on a continual basis, we don't know. But so this will kind of formalize it a little more, and it's our impression that this activity is happening mostly in the waterfront areas. You know, when you get into the heart of the neighborhoods that are away from waterfront, this is not happening to a large degree. It is to some degree, because there are different reasons that people do the short-term rentals other than just for a vacation. Sometimes they're on business trips or whatever, and we had the situation of a couple of months ago where the guy was asking to do it for nurses and, you know, those kinds of visiting doctors and those kinds of things. So there's different reasons for different people to do these kinds of things, but by and large, it is more of a vacation, you know, leisure type situation. We have had several applications from people in the commercial resort zone for the administrative approval. So the word is getting out that things are, you know, going to be changed and things are going to be regulated, so.
Now, will the folks who have already been before the board have an opportunity to go through the administrative?
They would. The ones that have been denied could avail themselves of this opportunity if they
It's
so
only
choose.
fair. I
Yep,
mean, so
yep, oh,
that's why I
absolutely.
was asking.
Yep, absolutely. So that's where we are on those 2 proposals right now, and the performance zoning situation is also before that is still before the planning board for at least one more public hearing in the June meeting.
Performance district? I
The
thought was
performance zoning district,
Is that
which
different than the urban?
it is, yep. That's an overlay which will be applied to, it will be applied over the urban commercial zone. It'll also be applied over the state school property area, that general area there. But it's an overlay and it's an optional thing. You don't have to use that process. If you want to do something to your property, you could do it under the standard process that we have now, or you could do it under performance zoning if that passes.
But both go to the planning board.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So what would be the substantial difference between a performance and a urban commercial? Because if they're all, one doesn't fall under,
The concept behind the performance zoning is that if you have a property that you want to do something with, and the current zoning regulations and restrictions, i.e. whether it's density or setbacks or potentially a use that is not allowed on that property, but you think it makes sense, and if you can convince the planning board that it makes sense to do that, then they can grant a conditional use permit for you to do that and not have to go through, say, special exception or variance processes. There is a limitation on the zoning, on the performance zoning, for its intention is for larger proposals as opposed to, I want to put a front porch on my house and I don't have the setback. You know, that's not the kind of thing that performance zoning is intended to do. It's intended to do larger lots, commercial and maybe multi-unit residential, where you're taking 2 or 3 lots and combining something together type situation.
so it's more towards the state property, it sounds like.
Yeah, or some of the example that I like to use is the Masonic building here on Main Street. It's like 6/10 of an acre. I mean, the building basically takes up, with the exception of like an 8-foot alley that they have around the whole building, essentially, the building takes up the entire lot. And there's so much square footage in that building that from a density standpoint, if you decided you wanted to convert a couple of floors to apartments, they would have to be huge apartments because the density requirements is such that, it just is not practical. And they could not make a reasonable size, 1,000, 1,200 square foot type apartment. They would have to come and get variance. And so, under performance zoning, they would come in and say, we want to do X. We're going to build, 1,000 square foot apartments, or, whatever it is that they propose. And if they can convince the planning board that this makes sense,
Okay.
and there's a market for it, then, so it's that kind of a situation is what we're really looking to spur. It's, like I said, it's not the little, I want to add 50 feet of square foot, footage to my business or something like that. That's not what we're trying to spur.
Cool. Okay.
And that's all I have.
Any other business? Y'all heard the deck conundrum is gone
yeah.
away now?
Yes.
Are we all signed up for the June 1st meeting?
If you contacted Kalina, you are signed up for the June 1st thing. Yes, sir. And I'll be presenting at that.
Yay.
Oh,
If you go to the short-term rental tract,
It's probably there.
I'll be one of the people presenting.
Okay, any other business?
Move we adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Cool beans.
Thank you for what you guys do.
Out before